Welcome to the meeting of the Executive Committee. It's been a long week. We've done a lot of good, important work, and I just want to thank everybody. I know it's tough to sit through Zoom meetings all week long, but we're very nearly to the end, so thank you. We'll start with our conflict statement. Members of the committee are hereby advised of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflict, and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before this committee with respect to which there is a conflict of interest or appearance of conflict. Are there any conflicts that need to be noted at this time? All right. Okay. And if one arises during the meeting, then just let us know by raising your hand or sending a chat or something else. Our first item of business is the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to approve. We have minutes of the council's meeting on January 15th, which were posted on SharePoint, and minutes of this executive committee's meeting on January 14th, which posted on SharePoint with this material. Unless there's a reason not to do, I'll entertain a motion as to those together.
Move that they be accepted.
Thank you. Got a motion?
Second.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Peter, you're going to put a poll up? Yep. Thank you. All right, that's been approved. Thank you. All right, our next item is the report of the Finance and Audit Committee, and I will turn that over to Darren Jordan.
Okay, the first quarter financial statements are included in the materials for SharePoint. We have reviewed those, the Finance and Audit Committee today. We are financially solvent, thank you. And we would ask for approval of the first quarter financial statements, and that being a recommendation from the committee does not need a second.
All right, any questions of Darren? All right. If there are none, then we have that motion, and I'll ask that we vote. Okay, that has passed. Thank you.
We had also from the Finance and Audit Committee today, we had a presentation from the auditors. We had our annual audit. We had a glowing report. It was a clean audit. There were no management problems. This is an audit of not only the state bar's finances, but also all of the other commissions and boards that we have underneath our umbrella, like LAP and the paralegal program and things of that sort. We would like to thank Jaya for all her hard work in the finance department. The audit should be in your materials, I believe, and if you've had an opportunity to take a look at those, if you haven't, I would present those to you at the appropriate time, but we are asking for approval of the annual audit that is in those materials. That being from the Finance and Audit Committee does not need a second.
Any questions for Darren or any questions about the audit? All right. Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on that. Okay, that motion is passed. Thank you. Darren, before you go on to appointments advisory, I just wanted to take a moment and welcome Davis Poisson to the council, and thank you for joining the executive meeting. We'll all get to learn more about him, all the juicy facts, if you join us at the social hour tonight. But anyway, welcome, Davis.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Darren, let's
All
go
right.
ahead with appointments.
The appointments advisory committee met. The first matter that we took up, and I want to thank Lenise for this cheat sheet she gave me. She's my rock star for the day right now. The first matter we took up was disciplinary hearing commission. We ended up having, there were 4 possible appointments in that, and I will explain we only made 3 of those at this point in time. At this point, 2 individuals were eligible for reappointment. Maya Madura Engel and Shannon Joseph were eligible for reappointment to a 3-year term for the DHC. And the committee is recommending that they be reappointed. That's Maya Engel and Shannon Joseph. So I would present that to the executive committee at this point in time, coming out of appointments advisory committee.
Anybody have any questions about those appointments? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and vote on that. All right, looks like that has passed. Thank you.
We did have 1 individual on the DHC that was not eligible for reappointment. That was Richard Bennett. The appointments advisory committee had a robust discussion. We came out and are recommending the appointment of William Oden. I think he's from Wilmington. Is that right, Colin? Yeah, Wilmington. William Oden from Wilmington to fill the 3-year term and the vacancy left by Richard Bennett, who wasn't eligible for reappointment. That would be our recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint William Oden. Any discussion? Okay, we will vote on that. And that motion passes. Thank you.
As of our meeting, there is another opening or vacancy that was made as a result of Allison Tomberlin, or Allie Tomberlin's resignation from the DHC. She has a little over 1 year left on her term on DHC, and it was the recommendation of the appointments advisory committee that we're going to leave that slot open. Effectively, her appointment would end in June of 2022. If we appoint somebody before the June of 21, then that individual would not be able to serve but 1 3-year term. So we've chosen to hold that open so that the person that we appoint in there can not only serve the rest of Allie's term, which would be just under a year, but could then be eligible for 2 3-year terms later down the line. So we're going to leave that position vacant until the July meeting. However, Allie was the vice chair of the DHC, and because of her resignation, we want to go ahead and fill the vice chair position for the DHC. A recommendation was made to us from the DHC of Stephanie Davis, and that recommendation was adopted by the Appointments Advisory Commission, and we are recommending to the executive committee that Stephanie Davis be appointed to the vice chair position.
Okay, before we vote on that, Catherine Jean, did you have a question or comment?
I just wanted to mention, as of the meeting yesterday, Dottie had not received a resignation formally from Allie, and she did receive it later. So she has resigned, and so that vice chair position is currently open.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion before us, the appointment of Stephanie Davis as Vice Chair of the Disciplinary Hearing Commission. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that.
That matter passes, Barbara.
It has passed, thank you.
We have an appointment for the Inmate Grievance Resolution Board. That is one appointment to be made. Gerald Beaver, who is currently the person that we have appointed to that board, is eligible for reappointment. Alice is going to contact Mr. Beaver to make sure that he wants to continue to serve on that board for another term. We are required by statute to recommend to the governor 10 individuals to be considered for this so that he can pick one. We are recommending Gerald Beaver as sort of our first choice. We have the following individuals we are going to send the names to the governor and let the governor know that Mr. Beaver is our first choice. We do have an alternate choice, and that is Travis Ellis, who is specifically asked and requested to be on this board. And we're going to let the governor know about that. But the other individuals that we are recommending to the executive committee to send to the governor is Wendy Bartos, Dayton Cole, Bill Faison, Jackie Hauser, Erica Jones, Deborah Newton, Riley Smith, Serena Williams, and Rebecca Wolf. So that would be our recommendation.
All right, any questions or comments? Okay, then let's go ahead and vote on this. All right, that motion has passed. Thank you.
We have one appointment to the North Carolina Courts Commission. The committee took up that appointment, and we are recommending John Neiman to be appointed to a 4-year term. I understand that he is the public defender currently in Greensboro. And so that would be the recommendation of our board at this point in time.
Okay. All right, so you have the motion to appoint John Neiman to the North Carolina Courts Commission. Any questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All right, that motion has passed. Thank you.
We have one appointment to make to the Legal Aid of North Carolina. That currently Chris Clifton of Winston-Salem is appointed to that. He is eligible for another 3-year term, and it would be the recommendation of the Appointments Advisory Committee that Chris Clifton be reappointed to another 3-year term.
Okay, any discussion on that? Hearing none, let's vote on Chris Clifton. Thank you. Y'all are getting very quick on that. That motion is passed.
The last appointment that we had to consider was the North Carolina State Foundation Board. I believe Bill King is not eligible for reappointment. That position needs to be filled by a past president of the North Carolina State Bar. It is the recommendation that Keith Capp be appointed to a 4-year term on that board.
Any questions or discussions on that? Okay. All in favor of the appointment of Keith Capp? Right, that motion has passed. Thank you. Thank you, Darren. Thank you.
That would be all of it. Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate the work of that committee. Okay, next we'll move on our agenda. We've got some rule amendments to consider, and I'm going to talk about 4 of them together, and this would be items 4A, B, C, and D. The detail is in your agenda. I will say that all of these are sort of technical in nature, kind of bringing the rules up to date for some technological issues. We talked about them last quarter. They were published and there were no negative comments received. So if you're so inclined, I'll entertain a motion. I guess I can make the motion.
You want a motion, Madam President? So moved.
I do, yes.
So moved.
This would be a motion to present these to the council for approval.
Second.
Get a second? Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, so we're voting on A through D. I think we're ready to vote. Thank you. Okay, it looks like that motion has passed. Thank you. Okay. All right. The next item, item 4E on your agenda, is a proposed amendment to the rules governing continuing legal education program. And this one was published. There were several negative comments received. So it went back for consideration at the CLE board. And after discussion and consideration, the board reviewed the comments and determined that they didn't want to make any revisions to the proposed amendment. So it is before you for consideration. We would be voting on whether or not to present it to the council for approval. So I don't know if anyone has a motion to that effect or another motion.
Move that we submit it to the council. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Okay. All right, seeing none, then we will vote on this. All right, thank you. While not unanimous, that vote has passed. Thank you. Next item. Okay, item number 5. This is a proposed amendment to our preamble. This was published, and then after publication, it was significantly revised. So it is before you now to consider it for republication. And I thought, Brian, if you might just take a moment to, yes, thank you. It's not all printed on your agenda, so we can just look at it right here and Brian can briefly update us on it.
Certainly. Thank you, Barbara. After this preamble proposal that was previously considered by the council in July 2020, after that was published, we did receive a great deal of comment, both in favor and opposing the potential amendment. So this matter was sent back to the Ethics Committee and ultimately to a subcommittee to study this further. And the subcommittee produced this new language, and I'll read it to you here. And this language was created after considering the different comments received and just looking at the overall preamble and how this type of statement could fit into the preamble. And the statement reads as follows. The North Carolina Constitution requires that right and justice shall be administered without favor, denial, or delay. Public confidence in the justice system is strengthened when all participants are treated equally, fairly, honestly, and respectfully within the system. A lawyer, as a representative of and crucial contributor to the justice system, should foster public confidence in the administration of justice by treating all persons the lawyer encounters in a professional capacity equally, courteously, respectfully, and with dignity, regardless of a person's race, sex, national origin, religion, age, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, or socioeconomic status. This was before the Ethics Committee today, and the Ethics Committee voted to send this to the Executive Committee. They voted in favor of publishing this new revision to the preamble.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Are there any questions, comments, discussion for Brian?
I would just compliment the committee on the work they did and the subcommittee on the language they prepared. I think they've done an excellent job, and I'm very happy with the language they came up with. So good work on a tough topic.
Agreed.
Barbara, if I could for just 1 second.
Yeah, can you pull the screen down, Brian? I just want to, no, sorry, I just want to be able to see everybody's faces. There.
That was certainly a mistake when it was back. I will say that we received comments on this, but the tone and the number of comments we got have changed, and I think that we've been trying to be more inclusive. And I think that although I'm sure there'll still be people opposed, I think that there is an attempt by Steve Robertson's subcommittee to put this together has taken into account a bunch of different views and listened to what happened to the comments we received when it was published last time, and has taken that into account. So I think Steve deserves commendation for the openness with which he and his subcommittee have approached this topic, and have really tried to work hard to find something that gets there. And I like the language too, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you to the members of that committee. Any other comments, discussion, questions? Then I would consider, David, did you want to make a motion as to publication?
Yes, ma'am. I would move that we send this for publication.
So we would recommend to the Executive Committee that this be submitted for publication. Is there a second?
Second, I second it.
Thank you, Mark. Okay. Any further discussion? All right, then we will vote on that. All right, 21-0. Thank you so much. Our next items I'm going to consider together 6A and B, and these are amendments to the rules that would deal with reinstatement of a lawyer after they have been after 7 years, and it talks about the requirements for that. And A is to the discipline and disability rules, and B is to the rules of the administrative committee. One thing I did want to point out to you was that subsequent to the receipt of your agenda, there were some changes made to what you see as A, the amendments to the discipline and disability rules, and these were largely non-substantive changes. Well, I don't know that I can say that. They don't change the meaning of the rule, but they make it consistent, they clean it up, and they took care of something that had been inadvertently dropped. So in your addendum to your agenda, you received a revised version of A. So when we're voting today, we're going to be voting on what was in the addendum. This would be A and B, these proposed amendments to the rules. And if I have not confused you at all, I will entertain a motion. These would be, we would be sending these for publication.
So moved.
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, let's vote. All right, thank you. That's unanimously passed. Our next item C is a proposed amendment to the rules governing the CLE program, and it is simply to require sponsors of the programs to get their sponsor fees to us timely in 90 days. So this would be for a motion to publish. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ted. Any questions or comments? And let's vote on that. Thank you. That has been unanimously approved. All right. And item D is a proposed amendment to the comment to a rule 1.1. And this would add a comment stating that competency includes awareness of implicit bias and cultural differences relative to a client that might impact the lawyer's representation of the client. This would need to be published. Thank you for putting that up there. So you can kind of see where it fits in to the rule. Again, this would be a comment, but it would need to follow the same path, which would need to be published. So is there a motion for publication?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. You can take it down from the screen and we'll see if anybody has any questions, comments. Okay. This one benefited from a healthy discussion earlier, so it's good. We'll go ahead and vote on that then. All right, that has unanimously been approved for publication. Thank you so much. We will move on to item 7 in our agenda, which would be the litigation report. And I will ask Catherine Jean. She'll make that report for us. Unmute.
Yes. So there is one case that the Authorized Practice Committee asked permission to file. It was given by the Executive Committee. That case has been served. The complaint has been served. The defendant has declined to participate in the process. And David is seeking a default in that case. I didn't realize David wasn't, her name is Tammy Alexander, and he could probably tell you more about it, but I don't believe he's here. There also, I believe, are 2 files that the Authorized Practice Committee is going to seek the Executive Committee's authority to pursue. But I'm imagining that the chair of the AP committee will seek that permission. Is that correct, Andrea? Okay. So then we have the usual number of just kind of miscellaneous lawsuits that have been filed against us at the Office of Administrative Hearings and in the Industrial Commission and various courts, and none of them is particularly noteworthy. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about them.
Any questions for Catherine Jean or for David, who has popped up here? So
oh, good.
Questions for either of them?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both. All right. Mr. White, you want to give us the report of the Legislative Committee?
Thank you, ma'am. Legislative Committee met on Monday, and we were discussing a lot of the things we were trying to do. I will tell the Executive Committee that Senate Bill 417 was introduced by Senators Britt and Galey in regards to the membership dues, and this year's bill that we've worked on trying to get passed is a little bit more detailed. Instead of having a maximum amount, it is actually broken down to what the amount would be for years 1 through potentially year or the additions from 2022 to 2029, and also increases the the late fee to $50 as opposed to $30. Right now, it is in the Judiciary Committee, and we are going to work to try and get that out. One of the ways we're going to try and do that is seek our counselors to reach out to their respective senators and legislators to encourage it to get out of that committee. We do have a list of the committee members on the judiciary that are, we have their contact information. So we're going to be submitting that to the counselors, asking for them to contact them individually, just to reach out and say, hey, this is very important to all the lawyers and the public. And it would be very good for this to pass and get out of the Judiciary Committee. So we are working on that. We're also trying to work with AOC in regards to cleaning up the judicial and the prosecutorial district mismatches. When we were presented by House Speaker Moore recently in the January meeting, he was concerned about the different numbers going from numbers and letters. And so we're going to try and work with AOC. They have a different, they have a tiger by the tail on some other issues. So we're going to try and get with them and work with that. So to make it take care of that. Then finally, we are trying to get out notes to the legislators. We do have pre-printed cards that are going to be sent out to the counselors with some suggested notes or just signature and get back so we can hand deliver those. So those are what we are doing with the Legislative Committee. It's very good. And it's a fun committee to be on. So if you haven't gotten on that committee, you definitely want to fight for being on that committee next year.
Thank you so much. I think they're all fun, but yeah. All right. Any questions for Jay? All right, then. Eben Rawls, I'll ask you if you'll present our report of sort of what we now call the PMBR/cybersecurity.
Thank you, Barbara. We met twice since the last quarterly meeting, and at the first meeting, we gave some deadlines for 3 different work groups to prepare some pretty much raw materials for a self-assessment in cybersecurity for lawyers. We gave them a March 26th deadline, which pretty much everyone met. And then we met again and reviewed the work product of these 3 work groups. And we're passing them around at this point into some really good stuff. We finally got some meat on the bone, and everybody's worked very hard. This is a complex and difficult matter to bring in. Walter and I are hoping that we can have a finished product by October. We've set another meeting for the 3 or for the work groups after they've reviewed each other's drafts in about a month. So there's no action item for the executive committee, just an update. Everybody's working very hard. And I think when we get done, we're going to have a product that we're going to be proud of.
I think so too. Thank you and the other members of your committee. Any questions for Eben? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll have the report of the Authorized Practice Committee. Andrea?
So, hang on. We met yesterday, and there are 2 cases that the committee is going to seek approval from you all today, as far as authorizing staff to proceed with seeking injunctive relief. The one is a complaint against Valerie Arroyo. The complaint involves her having filed a tort claim on behalf of 2 persons and holding herself out as an attorney. The committee voted to ask you all for permission to pursue this. So on this particular case, I and moving for approval at this time.
Okay, so this is Valerie Arroyo.
Valerie Arroyo,
Would be to seek an injunction, is what you said?
correct.
All right, so that is a motion of the Authorized Practice Committee. I guess that would not need a second. Any questions?
Steve Robertson has his hand up.
Yes.
Andrea, I assume that the committee had a discussion about less aggressive means of having this person stand down. Can you tell us anything about that?
So we did, and I guess the issue with this and the next one we'll talk about is that it's very egregious, and the committee felt that that there basically was not enough understanding on her part and acknowledgement that she just can't do this. She's continuing, like as far as I know, I don't know the detail, and David might share it, but it sounds like as of yesterday, she was continuing to file things. And so the committee felt that even though it's an expense on the part of the bar and or state bar, and it does take staff time, they specifically felt that because of the egregiousness of this and the next one we'll talk about, it's like we've got to put the brakes on it because she's still out there in public not taking any responsibility for what we're accusing her of doing. Does that
Any
answer your
additional
question?
questions? Yeah, comments?
Yes, thank you.
So they didn't take it lightly, in other words. So the next, so do we have to vote on that?
Made a motion on that one, so let's go ahead and vote on that. This is Valerie Arroyo. All right, that motion is passed 19-1.
Okay, so the second case is also pretty egregious, and in this case, it's against Brett Allen Fox. The committee is asking for approval to pursue injunctive relief against him as well. Mr. Fox graduated from law school, took the bar, did not pass the bar, and has been holding himself out as a licensed attorney trying to get employment. And so for obvious reasons, they're concerned. He's done it more than once, and they think it's not a good way to start your legal career. And they felt like there was no other way to impress upon them that this just can't go on. So we're asking at this time for approval to pursue that as well.
Any
So
questions?
I'm moving, so I guess basically I'm moving on behalf of the committee to authorize staff to pursue injunctive relief.
Any questions on that matter? Steve,
Yeah, I raised my hand. Okay, I'm back. What are we trying to enjoin him from? Using language in his resumes that he's a lawyer, or what exactly?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a lawyer, and he's been he's been associating himself as having worked with law firms and just trying to get employment, trying to create the perception that he passed the bar.
Wasn't there evidence that he had actually submitted forged letters to people too?
Yeah.
So it would be an injunction that he not engage in those specific acts, that he not lie on resumes and not submit forged documents. Is that sort of would be the crux of the injunction?
Or, I mean, David, is David here?
yes, he's here.
I don't see him.
Yes, I'm here.
So as far as the injunction, David, if you want to get into specifics, but it's, David, you want to share what you believe is going to be the actual remedy that we're going to be including?
Well, I haven't firmly crafted it in its entirety, but the statutes prohibit a holding out as an attorney when you are not an attorney at law. So I would make it as broad as I can to prohibit any kind of holding out on resumes, public declarations, communications with others.
And if I may, wasn't there also a recommendation from the committee that this be referred to the district attorney?
That is correct, and that is based in large part on the forged copy of the law license that he submitted to one prospective employer and a false pretense question with regard to his holding out to the most recent prospective employer.
Thank you, David.
Any other questions for David or Andrea?
Just
Okay, we
out
have
of curiosity, how did he get caught?
He confessed.
Hmm.
He was in the last case, he was asked to make a presentation and he's going to be introduced, and his boss asked him if he was licensed in North Carolina, and he initially said he was on inactive status, and then he admitted he was not licensed.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion to allow council to seek an injunction. Let's vote on that motion. All right, thank you. That's unanimously passed. Okay.
I have a third motion, and that involves seeking permission from the council to revoke the registration of a law plan. It's a prepaid legal service plan. They failed to file an annual registration statement and to pay the annual registration fee. And the plan owner indicated that the plan is no longer active in North Carolina. And that plan is called just simply Law Plan. So on behalf of the committee, I'm moving that the registration as that plan, as a prepaid legal service plan, be revoked.
Any questions or comments concerning that motion? Okay, seeing none, let's vote on that. All right, that has unanimously passed.
So lastly, just to give you a summary of what happened yesterday, we had 7 letters of caution and 2 matters that were referred to other regulatory authorities. We had 7 dismissals. We just went over the 2 matters for injunctive relief that that you just approved. Staff received 4 prepaid plans for initial registration, and those plans are under review. They received a resubmission of a plan for registration, and that was denied. And that's it, other than the revocation that you just approved of the law plan. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? All right, then we will move on to other issues, and I'll ask Ms. Armstrong to make that presentation.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, our subcommittee on compensation of court-appointed defense counsel is chaired by Alan Cobb with his able staff, Alex Nicely and Jennifer Slattery. And the purpose of this committee is to determine whether excessive caseloads and low compensation rates are impacting the competent representation of defendants by private defense attorneys. So this subcommittee met on April the 9th, and they have prepared a survey that they would like to send a pilot group, which consists of board certified specialists in federal state criminal law and specialists in criminal law juvenile delinquency. This survey was sent to you, I believe, by Alice today. It's in your materials, and I believe we need an approval of this committee for that survey to go out.
Right. I'm not sure that that's exactly a rule, but it was kind of our consensus that if a survey was going to go out under the auspices of the state bar, that we thought that the executive committee should have had the opportunity to look at that and kind of approve it. So that is, I guess, a motion from the issues committee. And thank you. Anybody have any questions on that survey or anything related to it? Okay, then I would like us to vote on giving them authority to do that. All right, that has been unanimously approved. Thank you.
And the next subcommittee is chaired by Mark Enriquez and staffed by Brian Odom. And it's the subcommittee studying proposed regulatory change. This committee met on January the 26th and March the 23rd and heard presenters from Arizona, Ontario, and also from a group named North Carolina Justice for All Project, who proposes limited licenses. The committee, I believe, is the next step for the committee is to take a survey of its committee members to kind of see what the committee members want to do in terms of their priorities or options that they're interested in, and then possibly extending that survey to counselors. Sort of along these same lines, the executive summary of the North Carolina Equal Access to Justice Commission's 2021 North Carolina Civil Legal Needs Assessment. It's a lot of words. Anyway, that's in your materials, and tomorrow we will hear from Chief Justice Newby and Justice Anita Earls present on that at the council meeting. So no action items for that subcommittee. The next subcommittee is the Diversity and Inclusion Committee chaired by Todd Brown and staffed by Leonore Hodge. And the purpose of this committee is to look at ways the State Bar can address race issues within the legal profession as well as other diversity issues. This committee has been hard at work as well. They've met twice since our last meeting. On February the 16th, they heard from Dana Cutler, who's the past president of the Missouri Bar. And then they also met today and had a great presentation by Lenore with the about initiatives in Arizona, Florida, and Oregon. I believe that this committee will continue to work to develop recommendations for this larger issues committee, including coming up with developing a mission statement. Then the last subcommittee, our newest, is the Secured Leave subcommittee. Since our last meeting, we have developed that committee. Actually, now it's chaired by Gordon Brown, staffed by Savannah Perry and Cameron Lee. Members of that committee are Mark Enriquez, Catherine Fry, Dion Fortner, Kevin Kiernan, Walter Brock, and Bill Mills. We appreciate all of their work. They've really worked hard. They've met twice already, met March the 12th and April the 1st. They developed a list of stakeholders, which I believe include, and I may miss some of those, but LAP, AOC, TCAs, TCCs, NC conferences of Superior Court and District Court, appellate judges, administrative judges, Office of Administrative Hearings, probably among others. They have looked at policies in Virginia, Florida, and Georgia. They have developed a survey, which should be in your materials. And much like the other subcommittee, we're looking to this committee to maybe give a stamp of approval for that survey to go out. And I believe the survey would go out to counselors, several sections of the North Carolina Bar Association, Advocates for Justice, Association of Defense Lawyers, Association of Black Attorneys, North Carolina Association of Women Attorneys, maybe the Young Lawyers Division, but a number of different groups. So Barbara, I think we decided that we also would like this larger committee to give us a stamp, give this subcommittee their stamp of approval for their survey.
That's right, we did. It's such a good way to collect information, but again, if it's going to go out under the auspices of the state bar, we'd like to have it approved by the executive committee. So it was in your materials. Are there any questions? Okay, then let's vote on that. All right, thank you. That's unanimous approval. Thank you, Marcy.
And that is the report of the issues committee. Thank
Yeah,
you.
a very hardworking committee and handling a lot of the important work, so I appreciate it. All right, Dorothy Mitchell, I'll ask her to give the report from the Communications Committee.
Yes, Madam Chair. I have a question. Could I ask, I apologize that I missed this opportunity, and I know we've already voted, but I had a question about that private appointed counsel caseload and compensation survey.
Uh-huh.
Is it okay? Okay. So I wondered if that committee inquired of IDS of any data that they already have on these same questions.
Yeah.
Well, Marcy,
Yeah.
do you want to answer that? I know you're, or Darren, I know you're kind of
Alan-
working with
Alan
IDS.
Cobb, is Alan Cobb with us? He's the chair of that committee.
Yes, they have. Mary
Aaron.
Pollard is actually on that subcommittee.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Say no more. All right. So
Thank you.
thank you too. All right, so my report for the communications, good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that first. The report that I have for Communications Committee, we did meet this week, and as far as we have a first I'll report on the subcommittee that we have on live streaming DHC hearings that's chaired by Takia Lewis. They have met one time. They are working on whether or studying whether or not we should continue to live stream DHC hearings in COVID, emergency, and non-emergency or non-COVID circumstances in all those different instances. So they are going to continue to study that further. And so that's where we are with that subcommittee. As far as everything else that we have for the complete committee, our second quarter plan, we are continuing to work on podcasts. Mark is continuing to be our gracious host for podcasts. We welcome and will report and ask for members and anyone else to give us ideas for podcast ideas, as well as be willing to be a guest speaker if possible. Next, courtroom conference room technology study that hasn't been initiated yet, but is planned for 2021 into 2022. And then we the next thing is that we have, as far as the communication with not district court, Lord have mercy, I'm at the courthouse and just left court, that's why that's on my mind, district bars. So Peter has created a form document or template that could go out to all of our bar counselors, and you can send that out. You can personalize it and send it out to your different district members. And so we're gonna have a little pilot program. So anybody that would like to participate in that pilot program can volunteer to do so. And so we can test it out and see how well that will work, as opposed to our state bar staff having the duty of trying to disseminate all the information after the quarterly meetings to all the different districts. As well as we are just looking for ways and exploring other ways to communicate better with our different district bars. And then lastly, we also have Peter working on, or he has already created and is going to continue working on it, a form document or electronic document that everyone, all counselors can go on and indicate their different duties and things that they've done. So say they've presented at a CLA. I don't know if everybody remembers the form that Peter created some years ago, where you would report all the different activities that you've been involved in as a counselor. And we would encourage different things that each counselor should do. And so this particular form was one that was emailed out. And so Peter has gotten it to a place where it can be in an electronic format, so folks can go on and put that information there, and it can go directly to him. And that is what I don't have any action items at this time from the Communications Committee.
Thank you. I think you forgot most exciting news of all. Didn't I hear that our YouTube channel had so many subscribers that we now are, whatever, I guess we have our own channel.
Yes, that is, you're right. I did forget that. So we have, as I think is as of the other day, so we might have more now. We had 105 subscribers. So that got us to like this elevated place on YouTube. And so, yeah, we're moving on up. I'm sure since the other day, we might have a few more subscribers since then, but yes, it's going up.
Dorothy, I want to just interject and provide some breaking news. We now have 106 subscribers.
See? 106.
We're just going viral.
We're moving on up, I tell you.
Thank you all for all your hard work.
No problem. Thank you all too.
All right. And to figure out how we do that and remain ethical, I will ask David Allen to give us his report.
Thank you, Madam President. We had a busy group, and I have to say we had an extremely busy quarter. We had 12 or 13 subcommittees working on various matters this quarter, and that we have to give a shout out, or I should give a shout out to staff for juggling all of those balls. Lenise schedules all of that crap, and you can imagine. I called her the chief cat herder today, because trying to find time to get more than a dozen subcommittees together, many of which have 6, 8, 10 members on them, or interested parties, because others try to get in there too, and manage all of that and then communicate that, and the logistics of all of that is just absurd. And so congratulations to staff for pulling that off. And this was not particularly impacted by Zoom, because frankly, that's what we would have done whether we'd been meeting live or not. So you add on top of that, the Zoom fatigue of all of us, and it really is. I just really think staff, I sometimes overlook, I'm bad about overlooking the fact that all of this stuff doesn't just happen magically. Staff is so seamless in what they do that I think it happens magically, but it requires a lot of hard work in the boiler room. And so thank you for that. The two major action items have already been on the agenda, the work of the preamble committee and the work on 1.1. We do have another subcommittee working on discriminatory language in Rule 8.4. That subcommittee was also tasked. The same subcommittee had the preamble. It's had that potential change, and that has been put on hold while we worked on the preamble. So Steve's committee, if the preamble moves forward, Steve's committee will turn its attention back to the potential rule change to consider. One note that of some of you who have followed the issue there, the Pennsylvania Bar adopted some anti-discrimination language into a rule change last year, and that was challenged in court. District Court in Philadelphia struck that language, and the Pennsylvania Bar appealed to the Third Circuit. The bar has now abandoned that appeal, so there won't be any further court proceedings on testing the ABA language, at least not that we've seen so far. It's just an informational topic. But we got through our meeting today. We had a very busy agenda and did just fine. And I really appreciate the hard work of the counselors and our advisory members and staff. So no action items. We'll have a matter for publication tomorrow, as well as the 2 rule changes, and that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for David Allen? Okay. All right, Jay, you said legislative was fun, but I think Warren has you beat. He has the happy subcommittee. So I'm going to ask him now if he'll give us the report from the Distinguished Service Awards Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this point, I would move to go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A2 to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship, prize, or similar award.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any questions? Let's vote on that, please. That motion passes, so we'll just take.
Okay, we're back.
We're back. Okay, thank you, Barbara. On behalf of the committee, I would move that the executive committee approve the nominations discussed in closed sessions for candidates A, B, and C for presentation of the John McMillan Distinguished Service Award, subject to our standard due diligence checks, and to be presented to the full council tomorrow.
All right, that's the motion of the Distinguished Service Award Committee. Guess that doesn't need a second. Any questions, comments? All right, then let's vote on that, please. Thank you, Warren. That motion has passed.
All right, I'll try to contain my enthusiasm and not speak so long tomorrow.
You can just speak very enthusiastically, briefly. Is there any other business to come before the executive committee? I want to encourage everybody to sign back on at 5 if you're not sick of seeing our faces, just for a little bit of get together and catch up and a little bit of fun. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.